it's like we got surgeons and we got primary care physicians. And that's kind of what we have for pain management. But in between, especially in the last decade or two, you've had fellowships develop and training, specialized training to specifically target interventional pain, which is right in between. So I would say the easiest way to describe what interventional pain is it's in between the conservative management, which is your chiropractic treatment, physical therapy, and then you've got surgery. And folks, a lot of times, especially injured clients, are looking for something right in between.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit. I have a guest here, very special guest, a man I like a lot, Neil Jolly with LA Pain. I always say LA Pain, but that's actually not the full name, right?
The full name would be Louisiana Pain Specialist, but right. Close enough.
I say LA Pain. Louisiana Pain Specialist. Also another bus advertiser.
Ah, yes.
Every now and then I see you on the back of the bus, and
that's
I'm like,
right.
I know that guy. And so, hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
So, Dr. Jolly is you help us out a lot, or you help our clients out a lot. Why don't you tell everybody what you do?
Sure. So, I think from an interventional pain specialist, by nature, always have to start by saying, what do we actually do? Because pain management as a field, a lot of folks didn't even know this field existed 10 years ago. It's like we got surgeons and we got primary care physicians. And that's kind of what we have for pain management. But in between, especially in the last decade or two, you've had fellowships develop and training, specialized training to specifically target interventional pain, which is right in between. So I would say the easiest way to describe what interventional pain is it's in between the conservative management, which is your chiropractic treatment, physical therapy, and then you've got surgery. And folks, a lot of times, especially injured clients, are looking for something right in between.
So I also am a patient, not of LA Pain, but I'm a patient of an interventional radiologist or interventional pain management. And what I love about it is what you do.
Why are you not a patient of us? Just kidding.
I had to fight just to find someone in my insurance plan. I went to a doctor. Doctor says, go to this guy. I go to that guy. He's like, we don't take your insurance.
Yeah.
And then so it was like
that's
one of
those. That's a whole
those,
insurance game.
Jesus,
that's
right.
Next level.
So what I love about what you do, but what I love is what you don't do. And what you don't do I think the crux of interventional pain management is what you're not doing. And what you're not doing is, what's the old term? Not pain management. What was it?
What do you think about medication management?
Yeah.
A lot of heavy. Yeah.
Right. You're not doling out, bottles and bottles of opioids.
Yeah.
Right. That's not it.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, when people talked about pain management, that's really a lot of what in our sphere, in the med-legal sphere, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I have a conscious issue when we talk about that. I cannot in good conscience send my client to go get, opioids, because I know what's going to happen.
I love that. And look, I'll tell you, Justin, it's impressive, working with you and your colleagues over the years, because I feel like you have also set that expectation at the front end of a case. You tell those patients, you say, hey, listen, you're going to go see a double board certified anesthesiologist, interventional pain physician. They're there to get you better, not to just put the Band-Aid on there, not to get you hooked on some medications, because it has been a battle to get to where we are now in this city and really across the U.S. with opioids. You just have to remember it. You don't have to rewind too far.
You
2016, 17, we're at the height of the opioid epidemic. You've got patients flooding our clinics, especially when we made a decision to take on the Medicaid population, that are just stuck on these pain pills. And how do you get those patients off? There's no magic fix. It takes time, it takes effort, but it takes training and consultations, not just from physicians, but from colleagues and advisors and attorneys like yourself that tell those injured clients, hey, we're going to get you on the right path.
Well, so one of the first cases I really ever encountered, was a gentleman who hurt his back and was given, we'll say Percocet for whatever, some opioid. But then over time, right, the efficacy is not there, right? So then it's, okay, well, we'll mix in we'll mix in like Soma or something like that. Then, then they're mixing in, then he's on fentanyl patches, right? And now he's taking like, oral opioids, fentanyl patch, Somas and other, sleep aids. And eventually this gentleman overdosed, right? He had a heating pad on a fentanyl patch on top of everything else in his system. And it was a case against the facility for not doing proper checks. And it was a real eye opener for me to say, this is what can happen when you injure your back. The pain is real. The pain, and then you fast forward 2018. I hurt myself. Everyone's like, "How'd you hurt yourself?" And I was like, "Well, it's a good story. I was getting out of the shower and I was drying off, and I put the belt in my waist, and I felt, and ever since then, it was that moment. Jeez. It was in August of 2018." I've never had, my back's never been right ever since. So, but I know this, right? Because I live in this world. Everyone's like, "Well, you going to have surgery?" I was like, well, "Absolutely not. I'm not having surgery." And they're like, "Well, can you take pills?" I was like, "Well, no, it's out of the question." So I get my annual epidural steroid injection.
There it is.
And that works for me.
And that's it, and that's what it comes down to is if you think about it, and when we talk about opioids and just pain in general, it always starts with some type of inciting factor. It could be something as simple as bending down, you pop something in your back, you go see a doctor, and then the question is, where do you go from there? And that is what I tell people all the time. And this is, I'll tell you this, Justin. So we were just hosting a large lunch for a group here in the area. And this group deals with a lot of injured patients in the work environment. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening more often than not, this shocked me, but not entirely, is that the entire group said, "Oh, but you're a pain specialist, so this is where we send you patients injured clients when there's nothing left on the table."
No.
And I said, no, this is we got to change the philosophy here. Pain management is not the end all be all at the very end of the road, and we just have some magical cure like medications to fix the problem. We would rather see those patients on the front end, because if someone pops something in their back, let's get the imaging. Let's figure out if they need a steroid shot. Let's get them fixed before they go down this algorithm that is sometimes irreversible. And so I just, if there's one take home that I tell people when we talk about interventional pain, is that put us at the beginning. Let us be the quarterback of an injured patient's care, because when we see that patient, we're going to know, okay, this patient is going to benefit from conservative treatment, followed by maybe something like a steroid shot. Or we see that patient, we say, "Oh no, you need to go see a surgeon right away. This is true instability. You have the potential for paralysis if this gets worse."
Right. So, a lot of what we do, we make recommendations to our clients for treatment, right? So I have the benefit, when I injured my back, I did the same thing, right? So I did, it wasn't chiropractic physical therapy. I did the McKenzie method. I still have the lumbar pillow in my chair. It's like sunk in the middle. I don't use it. I went to the doctor. My problem is that I live too much in this sphere. So everyone's like, "Well, what doctor are you going to go to?" I was like, "Oh, I don't really know." I don't know. We depose a lot of doctors.
That's right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then interventional pain was really where I wound up. So it was the same trajectory that my clients have. And so I will recommend to my clients, look, they're like, because they will come to me and they'll say, "I'm hurt. What do I do?" And I'll say, "Okay, the first thing you need to do is you need to see a doctor. But let's get you to an MD who maybe we'll just do some real conservative stuff, maybe some modality treatments, or maybe it's physical therapy, or maybe it is chiropractic, and then they'll say, "Oh, Justin, I'm not feeling any better. What do I do?" And so the question comes up here. They say, the lawyers come to me, they say, "Justin, what do you think? What should we recommend our client do? Should we recommend our client go see a surgeon, or should we recommend our client see, like Dr. Jolly?" And it's 6 in one, half dozen in the other, I guess. But I still agree with you. You can always have a surgery, but the problem with that is that you can't undo it.
That's right.
And I love the field of interventional, pain management, because you give another alternative to people who really are hurt. Listen, when my back's hurt, I'm laid up. There's nothing I can do. And it always seems to be around the same time. It's always like when we're moving or my wife needs something,
Yep.
or
That's
my
how it
kids.
goes.
I was like, man, I'd love to help you guys, but all joking aside, I'm really laid up. But
no, it's. I mean, you nailed it though. It does happen sometimes at the worst time. I mean,
Always when
I'm
I'm
thinking of
moving.
colleagues right here, probably in this building, that have had it as they're boarding a cruise ship, and
God.
which
Yes.
you know of, and it's like, oh my God, what the worst time? You're going to be in Mexico. I can't give you a steroid shot from here,
Right.
And so, what do we do to treat it? But it's great that you all give those recommendations, because most patients, clients, if they're going to get injured, they don't know where to go. And the first thing they're going to do is turn to a family member and say, hey, I got back pain. Do you know anybody that I should go see? And it's really just based on their experience as to where to go. You all have seen it front and center, the injured patients that get better, the injured patients that may not get better, and perhaps even some that have gone down the wrong path. You've seen it all. And just like we have as physicians, you just see it from a different perspective. And you can have sometimes even more intimate conversations than a physician can have with a patient. At the end of the day, we're there to coach them and tell them, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. But they'll also trust whether it's their friends or the firm that they're working with. So it's kind of it's a balancing act. Everything really is. And that's part of what we talk about with interventional pain is we stay in our lane too. We know when a patient is a surgical candidate, we're going to say, listen, this is not our expertise. Go see a surgeon. If we think that they can benefit from conservative care, we'll absolutely believe in the good physical therapists and chiropractors that we have in the community. But I will say, and I'm not trying to be selfish here, but I will say the vast majority of injured clients, injured patients that come in will benefit from interventional pain care on the front end, not the middle or back end of their case.
I completely agree, and it's cost effective, and it works. And it gives them what they need. I mean, the truth is, if you hurt your back, it's not going to go away, right? So a herniated disc is herniated. It's not just going to slip back in the other direction.
Yeah.
So it's a permanent condition, and it can happen in anything.
That's right. And let's talk about that. The disc itself is a very delicate structure. And so a lot of times when we talk about discs, people try to equate it and say, hey, it's kind of like this little water balloon that sits in between these big bones in your spine. And in some ways that's true. What happens is all of us, every human being, as soon as they turn 18, which is very early in life, that water balloon is going to start losing some water, and it's going to get dehydrated. When it gets dehydrated, that's one thing. That may not cause pain, but it makes you susceptible to injury. And so many of us, if you get into an accident, you're going to have that back pain. The disc is going to be the root cause of that pain. So how do you treat it? We don't necessarily just have to immediately take the disc out. And also, a steroid shot can benefit a patient, but that's not the only solution. That's the beauty of where we're at now. Technology's come so far. The treatment that we're recommending very often for patients that perhaps don't get the long-term relief from a steroid shot is something called Viadisc, and it's VIADISC. Beautiful shot, single shot technique, and it actually rehydrates the disc. It actually puts the cushion, the water back in the balloon.
Cool.
And so we love that, and it's there's a dozen other treatments that are coming out, but that's just one example of where we're at now with interventional pain. That's not going to be offered in a chiropractor office. It's not going to be offered in the surgical office. It's just one of those unique therapies that's coming to light now.
What I think is interesting about your field is that it's very cutting edge in technology, and I'm thinking, in particular about a procedure that you guys do with a stimulator.
That's right. Oh yeah. That's
the first time I heard about that. I was just shocked, and I was thinking, right. So I'm a lawyer, so I'm thinking juries, because that is expensive, and I want you to tell us about it in a second. But I was thinking, how do I present this to a jury that makes sense? And the answer is, this is cutting edge technology. This is something that we wish we had 50 years ago, or 25 years ago, or 30 years ago, when we were just doing surgeries.
Yep.
And it's phenomenal what science can do for us.
Incredible. And, just to touch on that device, we'll talk about how it works in a second, but what I'll tell you is this topic is going to be a very hot topic for 2024. So just at the end of last year, the FDA approved spinal cord stimulation for something called virgin back. Historically, for I'd say the last 30 to 40 years, Medicare, Medicaid, CMS, every insurance payer would approve spinal cord stimulation specifically for patients that already had back surgery and still had back pain. So the question is, do you get a stimulator or do you get more surgery if you have continued pain? In the decades of research, it actually was more cost effective and better for the patient in terms of outcomes to get the stimulator. So that's why the FDA approved it. Last year was groundbreaking. We always knew spinal cord stimulation was a therapy that could work for patients that don't have a history of back surgery, but the FDA officially approved it, which can take sometimes 6, 7, 8 years to do. But the literature was just abundant. So it's published now that spinal cord stimulation is a first-line treatment for chronic back pain. You don't have to get surgery in order to get the stimulator. So we love that for a lot of reasons. That's our expertise. That's what I've been pushing for since I got into private practice in 2016. But the idea of the device is very simple. It's if you have 2 or 3 bad discs, or if you have a little bit of movement, but maybe not enough to justify spine surgery, why not try therapy that shuts down the pain rather than actually go the rods and screws route? And if you talk to patients, 9 out of 10 are going to say, look, I don't mind getting the pain relief. I don't need to get the rods and screws in my spine.
Right.
Now, I will say, if I had a surgeon sitting at the table right now, and maybe we'll save this for the next podcast, we can have a little sparring match in a very friendly way, of course, But the idea is our surgical colleagues will probably agree, with that statement, is that not every patient just needs to go straight to the rods and screws. There is a place for spinal cord stimulation in that algorithm, and now the FDA and the government has backed us up on that. So, that being said, you mentioned another aspect of it. It's a costly device.
It is.
It's
expensive.
It's, I'll tell you, I've been to the factories where they actually make this device at Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Abbott, Nevro. They put hundreds of millions of dollars into the research behind these therapies, and that's why the U.S. is the U.S. If you want to go down to South America and get the device for, let's say a tenth of the cost, maybe not a tenth, maybe a fifth of the price, you probably could, but the technology may not be there with that battery. Mm-hmm. That battery just comes with all sorts of bells and whistles, and it continues to get changed year after year. So, again, when we're talking to the audience here, the battery is like a pacemaker battery, of sorts, but it continues to get better technology.
So what's next? Tesla batteries.
So you're right. What's next? So I'll tell you one aspect with spinal cord stimulation. There's a big conference in Vegas next week that I'll go to, and I'll find out what's next. But we understand that nanotechnology is becoming huge in the pain space. So rather than putting a battery, this size, maybe a $50 size, we're talking about something that you can not even see, barely see.
Oh, that's remarkable.
So when that device, when you're talking to a patient or a client and you say, hey, this device can truly take away your pain, and guess what? You won't even feel it. It's a 5-minute procedure, not a 1-hour surgery or 30-minute surgery. That is going to be groundbreaking, I think. I think the other aspect of technology are things like ViaDisc, where we're rehydrating discs. We're not just simply putting a Band-Aid on the solution. We're actually building the cushion back up. And, all of this goes well for patient care, because no matter what we talk about here, it still comes back to the patient. What patient would not want just a single shot, get the cushion back in your disc, feel like you're young again? And that shot may need to be repeated, but it's not going to have to be repeated but every 2 to 4 years.
Is that it? I think that's great. And ultimately, you're giving people the freedom and their lifestyle back.
That's
so
right.
I'm a big runner. And so my deal is, when I shop for my doctor,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not, if I go to a doctor and they say, well, you can't run, I'm like, oh man, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to find somebody else. And
we'd rather that than the other type of doctor shopping, right?
I know.
He's not giving me pills. Let me go to the next one.
Right.
I like that.
So my goal is I don't want to change my lifestyle. I want to figure out a plan that works for me. And everybody kept telling me, Justin, you got to stop running. You got to stop running. It's wearing down your body. And I'm not like an ultra marathon runner. I'm like running 5 miles. Like, come on, man. And I met with a surgeon that I really do like. Dr. Todd, right? So Anthony Todd, I think, or Andrew Todd.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like him a lot. And he said, no, don't stop running. Are you nuts? He's like, you're going to stop running. You're just going to have other problems.
That's right.
And so he was, he said, look, you need to go to an interventional, specialist. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because I thought, oh, of course I do. And this is what I deal with all day long. And it's the same recommendation that I make to my clients, except, you can't take your own advice sometimes, right?
That's
we get in
right.
our own way.
Yeah.
But it gave me my freedom back. And guess what? Everybody told me I needed to stop running. So I stopped running for a year. At the end of the year, I evaluated kind of where I was and how many like ESIs I had in a year, and it was 2, I think, and it was actually, I was cheating the 6-month mark. It was 2+, and how did my back feel? And my back really didn't feel all that great. So I remember telling my buddies here, I said, I'm gonna just start running again. And my wife is like, why? And she's like, but your back hurt. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to do it anyways. And I swear my back is no different. In some ways, it might actually be better now because of the continued physical activity than it was when I wasn't doing it.
I love that. See, that right there is a common theme that, actually I'll bring up our colleague right here, right down the hall, Phil. So he had the same question. He said, hey, my back pain is excruciating. After this steroid shot, should I just take it easy for a few weeks, few months? I said, absolutely not. Yeah. You get that steroid shot, you take it easy for a few days, get right back to whether it's running, whether it's continuing your diet program and exercising, do what you need to do, because the last thing we want is someone to just say, oh, I'm going to take it easy for several weeks or months, sit on the couch, and next thing you know, you're dealing with other issues.
So much worse.
That's impressive. You just went right back to it, though, because you have to fight through that initial burst of pain and say, hey, part of this is a mental game, part of this is physical. So,
well, and pain is also one of those things. It was actually when I had my tonsillectomy. It was Dr. Richard Spector. I love this man. And he was talking about the type of surgery he did on his tonsillectomy. So this is not really topical for us, but he was an old school. He's now retired. He used to cut and suture, but the new way, right? Obviously, they go in and they like cauterize. And he says, look, the reason I do this is very simple. One, he's like, I'm old, and that's the way I do it. But also, he says, pain is different. He's like, when you come out of surgery, you expect to have a level of pain. He's like, but then it tapers off. He said, but when we do it the other way, you come out with no pain. But then you're 3 days later and it spikes. He says, but your body, your endorphins, you get used to the pain and it becomes gradual. He's like, kind of like when you start having like pain, and then a few days later, your body's kind of getting used to it. Yeah. And so I agree. Sometimes you just got to like run through the pain.
You do. Your body's going to adapt, and you're going to find angles and approaches, and that's what we commonly teach patients. We say, listen, there's going to be some lifestyle modifications, but it doesn't have to be extreme. No. Extremes are never good.
No deadlifts. I don't do deadlifts anymore.
There you go.
My sister does CrossFit, and she made fun of me, and she was showing me the video. She's doing these massive deadlifts, and I was like, all right, well, that officially is where I draw the line. I will not be doing that.
That's right. You got to draw the line at some point. But no, that's good though. You got right back to it. You got on it. And hey, look, back to the topic that started this is you didn't resort to taking a couple of tablets here and there.
Not gonna do it.
That's the best.
No, because I've seen all too many times what happens, and it scares the hell out of me. So we're not going to do it. But hey, Dr. Jolly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here. And next time maybe we do a little sparring battle. We'll get a surgeon in here.
I love that. We are going to do that. You find the one. Maybe we'll get some like jousting sticks. We'll get you guys, or we'll battle with our work.
We're going to do it. I like that. That'll be fun.
We're going to get that in the works. So, well, thanks so much for joining us.
Perfect.
Take care.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.